Welcome back to Light Talk, where everyday people can share their spiritual journey stories with a safe and supportive community. If you or someone you know has stories to share, email lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Well, let's get started. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks. I'm gonna just talk about my little screen here, right off the bat. My eldest daughter, and smiley faces. I connect the two, and a lot of the kind of spiritual things that I've experienced in my life have been since I've had my eldest daughter with a tough medical battle. She started as a normal, healthy baby, right at brought her home, didn't know any better. A week and a half later, we brought her to our church. And during the Mass, I was looking in the bulletin and I saw the Elizabeth Ministry. And I got excited because I thought, oh, that's my daughter's name. Let's see what it's about. And when I read it, I said, oh gosh, it's for children that didn't make it full term. They died before they were, even able to start childhood. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, did I name Elizabeth the wrong name? Does that mean she's going to die? Um, Fast forward, when she was 13 months old, she ended up with cancer. And gosh, so many things went on, miracles and intuition and all sorts of things. One thing that pops into my head is uh, she had gotten her surgery for the brain tumor that she had, and now she was far enough in her recovery. So we were at the hospital waiting for the next day to start chemotherapy, and part of her face was paralyzed. A friend of the family came and he brought his minister from his denomination of church, and that minister prayed over my daughter. The next morning, she woke up and she did not have any Bell's palsy, is what they called it, in her face. Doctors, after the fact, said, we never thought her face was going to recover. So something happened there. It was before chemotherapy started and her face had been recovered. So we see that as one of many miracles that happened in her journey. And as we continue in that journey, um, there were like other winks and other kind of intuitions and things along the way. I was very blessed in Elizabeth's third battle to have a friend that was knowledgeable in spiritual things and like holistic modalities. And being that now Elizabeth was 6 years old and it was her third battle with cancer, I asked her, what are you doing now? And she said, I do this thing called Seimei. And I said, okay. And she goes, you can go tonight. They have an open night for the public. And off I went. When I got there, I walked into the room and I had this knowing about me. And I felt like I was home and I felt enveloped in love in the room. And I thought, oh my gosh, for a period of years, from when she was 1 years old battling to now 6 years old, I was pretty shut off with intuition. So for this, walking into this space and getting these knowings, like, where did that come from? It really like stumped me, but in a pleasant way. So that was, like, again, a little bit of this greater base we have around us for knowledge. And are we able to feel it? It could be as simple as, your gut, they say the gut reaction, Or in your heart, how do you feel? You know, it's good when you can listen to your body. And then, if you are gifted to listen to intuition that comes to you, whether it be in dreams or whoever it might be. It's been a tough battle with my daughter those 3 different times. But to have this gift of Seimei that came into my world has been incredible. It's in my life now for 12 years. Um, one day, soon into taking Elizabeth for sessions twice a week, they said we could help her to walk and run better. And so I said, okay, that sounds like a great idea. And they did the technique for Elizabeth. And then she got up and she ran around the room more beautiful than she had ever run in her life.
Oh,
And I said, there you have it. Like, where do I sign up and how quickly can I sign up? It was the most beautiful she'd ever walked or run in her life. So, I no longer was it good enough to go twice a week. I wanted it for myself so I could use it every single day, multiple times a day to help her. And thankfully, I did start learning it soon after that because fast forward through more of the traditional medicines and the different ups and downs, and is the cancer stable? Has it, progressed? And about maybe 9 months to 12 months after I found Seimei, doctors said that there were no more options for Elizabeth. She was going to have what doctors expected her to only have 2 more weeks to live. And this, for any parent, is the
yeah.
most horrible news you could hear.
Right, right.
Um,
I can't even imagine the feeling you were going through at this point. I'm sitting here trying, and you just can't. You just
yeah,
can't.
no, no. And I say I don't wish it on my worst enemy. Like it's not something a parent should ever have to live
No,
through. A child should not have to leave this world ahead of the parent. Unfortunately, though, still through today, there are children that do leave prior to their parents. And I can attest to the fact that it is a very hard journey when a child is going to pass away before the parent does. Um, Again, I had learned Seimei at this point, so thankfully I did, because once I heard that bad news, I quickly called my Seimei teacher and I said, what are we going to do now? And she said, well, now we have an advantage. This whole time prior, we've been having to manage the side effects of the heavy duty drugs of all sorts and types that she had. Now they're going to slowly wean all of that off of her because they're saying she only has this short time to live. Once the things are starting to wean out of her body, we can go after the source of the cancer. So we, myself, and people way more knowledgeable than me that have been studying it many, many more years at that point than I was. Um, we were after the source of that cancer as feverishly as possible. Um, that those 2 weeks, thankfully, weren't just 2 weeks. The 2 weeks turned into another 9 months that she survived.
oh,
And that survival wasn't just perpetuating her day she left. It was actually very peaceful those 9 months. She was out of pain, thankfully, to Seimei. And,
beautiful.
like that's not, there's nothing that can really, I don't know. I mean, nothing that I know of, at least that could do that. And I'm forever grateful for all those extra months. And I definitely had some, I would say, spiritual moments in that time. One thing I can think of, gosh, um, it was a few days before New Year's. Of New Year's, it would have been going from 2011 to 2012 to 2013, and Elizabeth stopped eating. And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm not ready for this." This was about maybe 6 or 7 months after they had given her only 2 weeks till die to pass, and
Right.
she, I pledged, that I would just work continuously on her, and, there were 2 other people, that were coming to my home that were continuously also helping me so that it could almost be round the clock. And
Wow.
we did that for 3 days, and when she woke up New Year's Day of 2013, she was eating and drinking again. She could swallow normal again. She wasn't able to have her normal ability to swallow prior to that. And
Wow.
it recovered, like, wow, wow, wow. And so thus
Cool.
yet another rallying. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that there was
Yeah.
another chance, another time. And then a few weeks later, she said to me, "Mommy, I want to go see Rudy in heaven," who is our golden retriever that passed a few years prior. And she had said this to me every once in a while over the prior few years. And I always would say, not before you're 104. You could see, you know, um, but but this given day, um, I knew that things were winding down and the probability of her leaving was getting stronger, though I would never give up hope of her survival. And so I had the bravery that night, towards the end of January of 2013 to say to her, "Elizabeth, it is your body and it is your choice. Mommy'll keep doing Seimei forever for you, but it's in your hands, the choice you make." And this, when I had that strength to tell her on a Monday of this week, the next 3 days she again stopped eating and drinking. And boy, me and my humanness came out, and I was not managing well with the permission that I gave because it seemed like she was taking a
Take it.
certain
Yeah.
path.
Right.
And I thought, "Oh my gosh, what did I give her permission to do? She's taking the path I was hoping she wouldn't."
Right. Exactly.
But I also wanted to honor the request that she made.
Right.
And then it ended up just a few days later on a Thursday evening, there was a family member holding her and asked, "Do you want some water?" And she said, "Yes." I was like, "Okay." And she drank some water. And then the very next day, she was eating and drinking again. And here she is rallying again and rallying, and things are dwindling, over the weeks. And then what a beautiful thing. But towards the end of February of 2013, one of my teachers was in Japan, and Japan is the origin of where Seimei comes from. And there's special ceremonies in Japan that can be done. So when she went there to Japan, she did a special ceremony for Elizabeth.
Oh, how
Her
nice.
pediatrician that became a family friend, was visiting in the house when that ceremony was happening. And now Elizabeth was waking up, and what she was eating, which again, she was like eating less and less food at this point, what the amount she was eating, when I'm trying to think what the math would have been. Yeah. So from this very little amount, when she had that ceremony, she then that day after the ceremony, she ate 5 times the amount of food. It was like, "Oh
Wow.
my gosh, how powerful is this?" And the
Yeah.
next day, it was almost as good, and then it did slow again. Um, and, it was this flow, but thankfully, she was in a peaceful state almost 100% of the time. And a big, tribute is due to the Seimei she was receiving. And one of a spiritual thing I forgot to mention, in that week when she told me, "I want to go see Rudy" on a Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I was pretty emotionally upset, distraught, I would say. But then I woke up Friday morning. She hadn't woken yet, but I was sleeping right by her to watch her like a hawk all the time. And
Right.
I said to myself this morning, I'm going to start doing Seimei before she even wakes up. And I was working on her for a solid hour early in the morning. And after I finished that session for her, I had this inner knowing within me that no matter whether she lived or she died, both her and I were going to be okay. And now I had that peace about me. I no longer was distraught. I had this incredible peace about me. And it stayed with me for the next couple months. She still rallied up and down, up and down. So to have that gift and that inner knowing that somehow, some way we'll be okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it really, I mean, now she's been gone for 11 years and that knowing was right. I've been very blessed because now in all these years since Elizabeth's been gone, I've only been doing more and more of my practice with Seimei, with clients, with friends, with family, and it really helps. That it doesn't completely dissolve the sorrow, the grief that I
Oh, of
have.
course. Of course. Of course.
Um, but I have to say that if I'm having a more down day, I have this beautiful net that catches me. And within the day, I'm now rallying and moving in the right direction, not the right direction, but a more lighter direction, less heavy and sad
Right.
to more of a lighter, happier way. And it's been a tremendous blessing because I've seen other families, other parents, suffer more, and when they go down, in a sad state, it could be for weeks or even a couple months before they kind of recover again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have a couple questions for you. One, did she say anything when she was on a low or anything? Did she say anything about seeing spirit herself or seeing the other side or family members with her or anything along that
Hmm.
line?
I'm trying to, oh, huh. Okay. So not in this time period of her life. But when, as mentioned at the beginning of the interview, we started going with her to church when she was a week and a half old. So we would be going regularly to church. And when she was about 3 years old, um, some of the friends we had were sitting behind us, and the woman said to Elizabeth, I have some extra rosary beads today. Which one would you like? So she said, Oh, I want the purple one, which was her favorite color at the
Uh
time.
huh.
So she picked up the purple one. She turned around to her dad and I, and she didn't hold it where you would normally, like across, is usually up with it closer to the T like this.
Right.
She had it upside down. And she said to us, Do you know what this is? And we said, What, Elizabeth? She goes, It's a key to a door. Like
Oh,
a little tyke. I mean, the wisdom she was channeling through her. How does a little kid come up with such a
key to a
resounding,
door. And what
yeah,
a
a key to a
beautiful
door?
door. That's
Yeah,
the absolute beautiful door.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And
that is so
and speaking
awesome.
of, if she'd seen like friends, family, you were saying towards the end, again, I'd say when she was about 3 or 4, we were at church around Christmas time, and she said, Mommy, I see Jesus. And I said, What? Where? Where do you see him? She goes, Behind the poinsettias on the altar. I'm not seeing it. And she was done talking at that point. But oh my gosh.
Oh, that, wow. She's
Yeah.
already been visiting and had her spot ready for her. Oh, how
Yeah.
adorable.
Yeah. And she
That's
she
so
had such
precious.
such a connection with the Virgin Mary that after mass every week she would insist on seeing the Virgin Mary statue outside church, and she'd spend a little bit of time with Mary before we'd go to the car.
Oh, do you think Mary was helping her through this too?
I believe it. I believe that she's helping her right now because that's what a better mother in heaven to look over my sweet girl.
Very true. Very true. I just got chills going through me, so there you go.
Yes.
There you
There you
go.
go. There's the confirmation.
Exactly. Exactly. That is so cool. That is so cool. I don't know if I told you pre-interview here, but I had a miscarriage, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I was 6 weeks along, but it's so funny. Like, oh, maybe close to a year or so ago now, I asked to see her, and she had come to me. I've only seen her once, and being 6 weeks pregnant, I didn't know what I was having, boy, girl.
Yeah.
And many years later, our son says, "Mom, how come you never named the baby? You just call it the baby. How come there's no name?" I'm like, "Oh my goodness, that's something I should have thought of a long time ago, right?" So he
Yeah.
actually named the baby. So
Oh,
he
wow.
named the baby Taylor. And
Oh,
since it's boy, girl, because we didn't know.
yes, right. I was
Yeah.
wondering, like, how would he know boy or girl?
Yeah. So he went boy or girl, it's separate on that. And I'm like, so we was calling her Taylor. And
Okay.
then I got to using my pendulum and I realized she was like, Taylor, I don't like. It's like,
Ooh.
she goes, it's Monica. Monica
Ooh.
from the show Friends. And I'm like,
Yes.
are you like Monica? You know, because Monica's like this, oh my goodness, you got to be absolutely clean. And, she can move when the hair moves. She knows it
Yeah.
kind of thing. So she goes, yeah, she's just like Monica. And I'm like, oh my goodness, because no, not my son. But
Wow.
anyways, about a year ago, I had a vision of her, and she had the long brown hair like me, and she was very
Hmm.
skinny. She was like in her around 16 or so, 16, 18. And now she would have been 27. She would
Oh,
have been
wow.
27 years old now. So,
Wow.
yeah, so that's really exciting. And knowing that she's up there watching over
Mm.
me, and
Yeah.
knowing that we
Yeah.
all are thinking of her all the time. I know I'm always thinking of her and
Yeah.
all of that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
incredible.
sweet. Um uh, my youngest child thinks about the child I had between my middle and my youngest. I had a miscarriage as well.
Oh.
And I do owe, I'm going to say almost always, I will say I have three girls for the three girls that were here, my eldest that passed, and my two little ones. Not so little anymore. I shouldn't say they're little,
They feel little
but
still, don't they?
yeah, but my youngest, she would correct me from time to time and say, Mommy, you have four children. And I thought, like, wow, like, and she was a little one, like, and they say that, 7 and under children are so connected.
Hmm.
So I loved the fact that she was like, she's right. I do have four children, and it didn't come to me right away, but I realized, gosh, Elizabeth's in heaven, but she's not alone.
She's
She
not.
has a little brother or sister with her. So I've got
Uh-huh.
two in heaven and two here on the physical plane.
Yeah. And that's so awesome. It depends on who I'm talking to that I can talk like that with, so it depends on the situation that I can bring up to
Right.
Monica and all, but it's really
Yeah.
cool.
And I would agree. And that's why I say I pretty much always say I have three because I had three physically here, but it's yeah, depends who you talk to, whether you
Yeah.
discuss about the miscarriage or not.
Right, right. And since we're running out of time here now, I wanted to ask my second question, and that is, can you explain to everyone what Seimei is? Seimei.
Okay. Yes. Well, I'll do my best. The best usually the best thing is to experience it, because that's how you can start understanding it best. But the little bit I could say to Seimei is it's a technique that comes from Japan. It's done always non-touch. Even if someone's presently in like in front of me, we never touch a person while doing the technique. And certainly when it's from a distance, I can work anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter, and the effectiveness is there, and it can be helpful with acute or chronic conditions. It can be helpful on emotional and on physical level, and even the spiritual level. So it's the technique I learned 12 years ago, a year before Elizabeth passed. And I just keep growing and learning. And I've some of the advanced levels of Seimei are in Japan. So I've done many trips to Japan for the further advancement in the levels of Seimei. And each and every trip to Japan has just been a gift.
That's
Just been a
awesome.
gift. I
That's awesome.
I feel like Japan is another home for me. And I don't know exactly what that means, but certainly it's something inside me that feels familiar there.
Oh, past
So
life.
it could be. It
Or
could be.
you'll be living there soon.
I don't know. I have family back here, so we'll see. That might be hard, but I do
So
enjoy visiting it.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So is this something, because my sister does Reiki, is it something kind of similar to Reiki with energy? Is that how this works?
Uh, Not really. Not really.
Okay.
I mean, Reiki is holistic, just like Seimei is. But the principles of Seimei are different than the principles of Reiki. The founders of Reiki are different than the one founder we have of Seimei. Our founder of Seimei is still living,
Oh,
still, yeah, and it's wonderful. He's in his 70s, and
oh,
he still gets kind of a report from those that are actively running the foundation in Japan. So we have the gift of little tweaks and things along the way from him. He's doing this, gosh, 40, 50 years now, probably. And
so it's very new still.
it is
It's a
very
new.
new. And I'm trying to think, he's in his mid 70s. So probably getting close to 60 years now.
Wow, that's
So,
exciting.
but he started it from nothing to now. And it's, he worked with tens of thousands of people to come up with this basic form that is taught both here in the US and in Japan.
Very awesome. Very awesome. Well, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And I'm going to thank you for being a guest today. That it's been very intriguing to hear about your daughter and the struggles and the healings and in all emotional and physical. That was really
Thank you.
wonderful
And
to hear.
if anybody wanted to hear more of her story, I just published a book this past year. So I'd love for them to look that up. It's called Never Give Up Hope, The Little Girl Who Changed the World.
Oh, well, definitely have to get it. Definitely have to get it because this is a beautiful story. Beautiful story.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, it's time to say goodbye, which is always sad for
Okay.
me. But it's going ahead and thanking you for being here again. And let's see if anybody out there in the audience that would love to have stories to tell. And you know where to contact me. It's lighttalk423 at gmail.com. And don't forget to click on those like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. And I thank you everyone for being here. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.